It had never happened before. Their daughter began to have trouble sleeping alone in a room. Lately, they couldn't leave her by herself, even in the daytime. But when they got a dog, everything changed. The parents were happy at first when they saw their daughter finally sleep well, if only they knew the truth behind it. They were a simple family of 3. Dex Pritchett was what one might call a typical dad living in Kansas with his wife Lindsay and 1-year-old daughter Michaela. The father was a lecturer at the local college, and his wife ran a small bakery in their town. Dex was thrilled with his life, but everything would change when his daughter turned 2, and things could never go back to the way they were before. The family lived in a small neighborhood in Kansas City. Their home was large but cozy and inviting, with more than enough rooms for every family member. They felt ready to increase their number, so Dex and Lindsay started looking for a pet to adopt. They also discussed the possibility of a second child, but until then, a dog will do. The problems began to pile up when Michaela complained about being afraid to sleep alone. She had her room already, but she didn't love the situation. She would wake up in the middle of the night and cry until someone came to console her and help her go back to sleep. Dex and Lindsay believed that their daughter was just afraid of the dark, but it didn't take long before Michaela started crying, even during the daytime. Dex and Lindsay were going crazy with worry as Michaela's fear of being left alone grew. They couldn't leave her alone even for a few minutes. She would burst out crying in no time when she was by herself. Enough was enough. The family decided to visit a pediatrician and figure out how they could help Michaela. They had no idea they wouldn't even be able to reach the hospital that day. Destiny had other plans for them. Also, if you have not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these animal stories every day. Now, back to the story. Dex and Lindsay were worried. They were on their way to the doctor when they suddenly got stuck in the morning traffic of Kansas City. They were already getting bored, so Dex had the idea to put some music on while they continued to have a pleasant family conversation. But while lost in their talks, something was going on with Michaela while she was in the back seat. What they saw next would change their lives forever. They had no idea how, but Michaela had found a way to stick her head out of the car window. She couldn't roll the window down further, but she was excited about something outside the car. Dex and Lindsay were still focused on their conversation when they heard their little girl shout, "Mommy, doggy, doggy!" They both turned to her and couldn't believe how close she was to the car window. They followed Michaela's directions, and their jaws dropped when they saw what was outside their car. Near the road where the family was still stuck, they saw a pet shelter. Several puppies and kittens were inside, and Michaela was excited to see them and wished to pet them. Dex was still set on going to the hospital, but his phone suddenly rang. It was the doctor. They had to reschedule the appointment. This news meant that they could go to the shelter, so Dex found a parking spot nearby, and the entire family went inside the animal shelter excited. But none of them was anticipating what was to come. The dog that stole the Pritchett family's hearts was a handsome 2-year-old Pitbull named Silva. As far as Dex was concerned, he seemed to be the perfect dog for his family, and he would soon realize he was more than right. Dex and Lindsay prepared a small welcoming feast for their new family member, Silva. They all cuddled and watched a movie, and afterward, the weirdest thing happened. Michaela, who rarely slept with the TV on, had fallen asleep on the sofa. Next to her, the dog was also sleeping deeply. Dex and Lindsay were in awe. They tried to move Michaela slowly without waking her up and eventually managed to move her to her room. It was no surprise that the dog also woke up, but they never expected that he would react in such a manner. It was unbelievable. Silva followed Dex and Lindsay to Michaela's room and climbed onto her bed, carefully laying next to the girl. After all the sleepless nights that Michaela had in the last few weeks, the Pritchetts usually kept close to her room to rush in when she woke up. But that night, Michaela didn't wake up. She only showed up early in the morning with Silva on her side, a wide grin plastered on her face. What was happening? Dex and Lindsay didn't know what to make of this development. Michaela was barely an early riser and most definitely not a smiling one, but today everything was different. Dex looked to uncover the mystery before him and installed a camera in Michaela's room. Dex intentionally set Michaela for her afternoon nap with the cameras in place, but she insisted that Silva stays with her, to which Dex unwittingly agreed. What he found on the camera that evening would leave him speechless. Dex rushed to his computer to uncover the secret behind his daughter's naps. Michaela slept soundly in her bed, and before her, also napping peacefully, was Silva. Michaela had cuddled into the dog in the cutest way possible, and although buying the cameras had been expensive for Dex, he was glad he'd done it to witness such a beautiful thing. He was about to turn off his computer when something else happened. Michaela woke up with a start, and so did Silva. Michaela looked around her room with drowsy eyes, her brows furrowing as she realized her parents were nowhere to be seen. Her lips began trembling as her eyes grew wide, but Silva whined at her and licked her face, pawing her lovingly until she lay back down. The dog licked her again and lay next to her. Dex watched with his mouth open as everything unfolded. Michaela smiled, petting Silva until her eyes became heavy and she slept. Dex couldn't believe it. He called Lindsay right away, explaining what he'd just seen. When they finally took Michaela to her pediatrician, the Pritchetts learned that their daughter had a case of monophobia, the fear of being alone, which Silva was helping her get over. Although Michaela would soon outgrow this fear, her bond with Silva would only grow stronger. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider sharing it with your friends and family. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one.